Good morning, 819S. Today, another nice day. A little cloudy. Not supposed to rain today. 21 degrees with a high of 25. Definitely cool and comfortable. It's a good day to be out here riding. I also saw an earthquake, magnitude 6 near Taiwan. And I don't know how bad it was out there. The Japanese map showed it was Shindo 2, but the Shindo level is based on sensors in Japan, not sensors in Taiwan, as far as I understand. So that means the shaking in Japan was very minor, but the epicenter looked to be closer to Taiwan, so I think it was a little stronger. Then there was some newspaper article about the Nankai Trough. Nankai Trough is a kind of southern area where a few different plates meet, if my memory is correct, or my understanding is correct. Um, there are a few different tectonic plates that meet, and the news always says that when that one goes, that's going to be one of the most major earthquakes Japan has ever seen. So I'm scared of that. And the news, it wasn't big news, so it wasn't something that most people recognized. But in the earthquake listing for all the earthquakes that happened recently in Japan, it was the Higashi Trough, I guess. I don't know if it was called trough itself, but the kind of plate, but uh, more on the east side. And I'm not a seismologist, and I don't play one on TV. But man, the earthquakes happening in that area and the prediction of that mangaka who also predicted the March 11th earthquake really starting to get me a little bit anxious and worried that something not fun is coming our way. Um, I think Japan might not survive this next one. I mean, obviously, the people will, the country will, the culture will. There'll be a lot of rebuilding, a lot of hardship, a lot of struggle, but um, yeah, the newspaper article yesterday said something crazy. It was like 1,447 trillion yen worth of damage is predicted for the Nankai Trough earthquake. And I feel like, there's always news stories about disasters in Japan. That's kind of a part of life here. But I feel like the reporting about potential dangers and potential damage seems to be on the rise. Maybe I'm just noticing it more. It could be that. But yeah, with all the craziness going on in the world and other parts of the world, I'm worried that something is gonna happen here too. It's not a doom and gloom story. In my opinion, when you think about potential disasters, potential dangers, it's not to feel woe is me and um, feel helpless or something like that. The thing you need to do is just be prepared to know what you need to do to make sure you have preparations ready. In my house, we do have, I don't know exactly how much right now. That's one thing I'm going to have to do this week, this weekend on my next day off, um, is just make sure you have bottled water, make sure you have canned food, sure you have like some candles, make sure you have something you can use for a toilet, basic emergency preparations. And I think that's normal stuff for Japan, to be honest. Um, in Japan, there are often earthquakes, tsunamis, typhoons. So to be ready for it, I wish I had a camera on my helmet today because the dude just did something really wild. Yeah, there are normally disasters here. So basically, instead of crying and worrying and feeling scared, just be ready. We do have some canned food in the house for sure. We also have bottled water. I have candles. I have some things like that. Candles, light and heat. We have some USB batteries, and I have some USB lights, and we have some things that we can do to make sure we remain comfortable if there's a power outage. Um, I do have a Jackery, if you know what Jackery is. Um, it's a giant battery. Mine is 1,000 watt hours. So it's possible that I can run the refrigerator or things like that off of my Jackery. So I think something that people don't always consider when there's a power outage is their refrigerator. Um, the freezer will thaw and possibly completely melt. The things in your refrigerator will warm up, so you might end up losing everything in the refrigerator. But if you have a power source, or if you can move some ice packs from the freezer into the fridge to kind of keep everything cool, and then you might end up losing some of your frozen stuff. That's one consideration. With the Jackery, we can keep it running. Um, we have preparations for the pets. So we have 2 cats, we have snake, we have mice, we have fish. Uh, we have a lot of animals in the house, and my wife makes sure to always have extra food on hand for them. Just like food we need for ourselves, food and water for the pets is critical to keep them alive. And I think um, knowing where the evacuation routes are and knowing where the evacuation centers are is a really good preparation technique. Maybe even walking to them from time to time just to make sure you know the way. When I lived in Sagamiono, I also walked alternate routes so that I knew if there were power lines down, if there was a traffic accident, if there was some obstacle in the way, and I couldn't get to the evacuation area directly. I knew 3 or 4 different ways to get there. Um, it's your local town, so it should be something that you're familiar with anyways, but yeah. Some people don't actually spend the time to walk around in their own neighborhoods, so yeah. In my case, I think that there's 3 evacuation places that are relatively close to my house, but one of them is the kind of major one. Typically, evacuation centers are schools in Japan. So if there's a nearby elementary school, junior high school, that's most likely going to be your closest evacuation place. And there's another warning too about over preparing. So I talked about preparations in the past with some of my students, and one student brought up a point that I didn't really think about until they had mentioned it. Um, basically, oh, basically, you can prepare everything you need to live for months and months and months and months, maybe even a year. But if the earthquake is so severe that your house is unstable, you would not be able to access that preparation. And the preparation in the evacuation areas are usually meant to supply water and food and basic supplies to the people in that area. So having the preparation in your house is a good idea, but don't over prepare because there's a likelihood that you're not even going to be able to use it. And the government basically has a job of preparing and making sure it's ready for its citizens. So as long as you can get to the evacuation area, you should be safe. I have a tent also. I think the tent could be useful if I needed to stay somewhere, especially like an evacuation area. But unfortunately, the tent rods that hold the shape of the tent broke in the last trip that I went on. I went camping, and when I was assembling the tent, I heard a tiny crack, and then as I was uh, as I was setting up the rest of the tent, I just heard it crack a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and yeah, I can rig my tent up in a way that works. I can sleep in it for a night or two, I think, but I really, really, really have to buy a new tent. That's another reason I haven't gone out touring that much these days, because I would like to go camping, but my gear is not in the best condition right now. And it was a cheap tent to begin with. I want to say we spent like 3,500 yen, like 35, $40 on it. it was not so expensive. But I got a lot of camping trips out of it, so yeah, it was good. As far as value for money, I think it was definitely worth it. I just wish I could buy the pole separately. So yeah, I guess that's all I want to say for this one. It feels a little negative, but that's how the mood is in my life right now. Trying to stay positive and stay prepared for whatever might happen next. And today I need to go to the dentist because my tooth broke. So that's another topic for another day, I guess. Fortunately, it doesn't hurt, but I can feel some tenderness in my gums that definitely shouldn't be there. So yeah, today off to the dentist in my break. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Ride safe.